grew up in this industry as a young kid and I'm still pretty young. Sometimes you get treated pretty badly. If I'm able to make a change for young actors going into this business by being nice to them, I want to do that.
I'm so excited to talk to you today because I have binged the second season. So we're going to have to talk plot spoilers. We're going to have to get into it. And the one thing we need to get into first is the final episode where you've got that shotgun and you're pointing at August. Acting sensational. The drama was sensational. I was on the edge of my seat. What was going through your mind? Talk me through.
Oh wow, it's actually a very, very nice scene because we're all there, like everybody, all five of us, like the main cast, we're all there in that scene, and it's so much drama, like you said. It's me and Rosta, our like conceptual director. We've always been very inspired by. Have you seen Succession?
Yes. Yes, I have.
Yeah. You know Kendall Roy from Succession? Yeah? So Wilhelm's very, very inspired by Kendall Roy. And so that day when we were doing that scene with the shotgun, it was, all this drama, I was listening to the theme song of Succession in my head. So I was like in that mood, and then we did that scene and I just kept like increasing the intensity. And you know that spit in the end when I spit at August? We did like maybe 8 different kinds of them, and I just tried different kinds of spitting. It was so much fun. You always love doing those kinds of scenes because it's so much drama. It's just yelling. It's amazing.
I just love the fact you had to find multiple different ways of spitting.
Yeah, isn't it fun?
Yeah,
that's why you love this work, Yeah,
you're like, let me just get a little bit of phlegm for this one. Stand back. This one's gonna be more of a spray.
Okay, everybody, stand back. This is a spray take. So,
I love it. And then obviously there is the scene of all scenes is the cliffhanger at the end of the season where he comes out. Dun dun dun.
Yeah.
How was that for you to stand up there and deliver that speech? What was going through your head?
I mean, it felt very, very important. It always has. Like from when I read that scene for the first time, it's changed a lot too in different versions of the script. But when we had the final version of it and I read it, I felt like, okay, this is we need to deliver this perfectly. And it's such a strong moment. Like it says so much about Wilhelm and his journey, and him growing up and realizing things and doing things, because he does a lot of things for himself this season and doesn't really think about others. But at that point he doesn't really think about himself. He thinks about many people. He thinks about a whole world, a whole community, his family, Simon, his friends. He thinks about so many things, and it's very strong. And it was a long day shooting that because we did it from so many different angles. But it's very powerful, isn't it?
Oh, it's so powerful. It really hit me. I felt very emotional watching it.
It did?
I had a little tear. Yeah, it really got me. And then,
wow.
And then I was like, oh my God, surely there's going to be a couple more minutes after this. Like, we're going to see him run into the stands, give Simon a big kiss. This is what we're going to get. And I was like, the absolute mother beepers. I can't believe they just left it on that cliffhanger.
Well,
I couldn't believe it.
We have to,
Yeah.
We leave on a pretty heavy note. Like, okay, he's the first royal ever in history to like come out as openly queer. And he's like, okay, everybody, I'm queer and I lied and this is my boyfriend. I'm in love with this guy. Ta-ta. It's very it's very heavy, leaving it at that point. But I think it's good too. Like we every show needs a good cliffhanger.
Oh, it does. And I think it's such a special moment because I think regardless of anyone's sexuality, we all have those moments where we have to really face ourselves and face ourselves in the mirror and work out who we are and who we want to be.
Yeah.
For you, what's been a real key kind of like coming of age and like sort of really understanding yourself moment for you?
I love those moments. And I think I'm like subconsciously seeking them in my everyday life. And luckily, and I think that's the reason why I've been doing this for 14 years, I get those moments a lot in my work. I learned so much, and I learned so much from like the characters I play. like Wilhelm's taught me a lot about being able to feel stuff and communicating with people around me, and I think that's beautiful. But it's like that's like one of the most beautiful parts of life, isn't it? Just like growing up, learning things, seeing stuff from different perspectives that you didn't just a few months ago.
That's totally true. I totally get what you mean, and I think that's what's so special about so many different parts of this show, and especially one of the things which I think what you were just saying about the honesty and being honest with yourself and being honest with others and sharing with others is so important. And one of the things I love about the characters is they're always very open and honest with each other. They're always checking in with each other. They're always like, how are you? How are you really? Like, and that is such a potent and very special and much needed question we need to ask each and every one of us and ourselves is, how are we actually? And the whole way the show deals with mental health is very powerful, especially the way they deal with Wilhelm's anxiety, for instance. To prepare for that and to go on that journey, what did you do and how did you prepare for it?
Oh, good question. Well, like there's always been a discussion, a creative discussion about like how do we want to portray Wilhelm's anxiety, and Wilhelm's always been experiencing this like anxiety part of him. Like that's always been there for him and as a challenge in his life, and that comes from like living with extreme pressure on his shoulders and traditions and all of that, and he's feeling very alienated. He's not like fitting in anywhere because he's very special, and everybody's always told him like you're part of the royal house and you're a prince, and like that just makes him stand out more, and I guess he feels lonely. And what I felt like we should do throughout the course of this story, both in first and second season, is show his anxiety in like different forms. So in season 1, there's a very like open physicality to his anxiety. Like we see him having panic attacks, and we see him like rubbing his chest, biting his nails, chewing gum, all those kinds of stuff. Ahead of season 2, we had a discussion about like maybe we should try going a different like route here, because a lot of stuff has changed for Wilhelm. Like he's been all alone, left by everyone basically, and feeling such sorrow after both his brother who passed and also like his love for Simon being trashed. We felt like this new Wilhelm he's way more like introverted, he's keeps stuff to himself, which is like, if we're being honest, it's what royal protocol tells him to do, like keep stuff behind closed doors. So subconsciously he follows like the royal protocol, even though he doesn't want to, and he's not comfortable with it. I think the fact that he is so introvert this season is also what like drives him to do what he does in the last episode, like being open and talking openly for the first time in front of like the whole school, his family, cameras, Simon. It's a cool story that he goes through, a beautiful journey this season.
And I think it's an important journey that so many people need to see reflected on screen too. How do you think it's made you reflect on your own journey with your own mental well-being, and what's that journey look like for you?
I studied behavioral science in high school here in Sweden, so I've read and learned a lot about like psychology and philosophy and communication and stuff like that, and one of the main things that it has taught me is to be able to like feel comfortable in your own mind, I guess. You have to be able to communicate, and you can adapt that to like how many people do you want to talk to, who do you want to talk to, and stuff like that. But like seeing a therapist is one way, but also like speaking of how this Wilhelm's journey's affected me, like it shows me too, like once you're able to like open up and talk to people instead of like keeping it to yourself, you learn from it and you grow from it. And I think that sometimes when I'm acting, I don't really have control over what I'm doing, because it's just like you're in the zone and you're improvising and stuff, and that shows me different sides of reacting to stuff as well. So it's such a privilege for me to be able to like learn from Wilhelm, even though it's me playing him.
It's like free therapy in a way, is it?
Yeah Exactly, and that's great. I mean, I wish more people got to experience that because
Yeah.
I'm a strong advocate for therapy, and I think it's important to talk about mental health, and I think that's also one of the themes that we're exploring. Season 2 is so much about like secrets. What happens when you keep secrets, and why do we keep secrets and stuff like that. So, and that is both regarding to like relationships between people, but also mental health. Like what's the benefits and the cons of keeping stuff to yourself and not communicating with people.
Oh my god, 100%. And having a stronger relationship with yourself enables you to have a stronger relationship with your whole sense of self as well. Do you think you
Yes, exactly.
learn a new level of self-love for yourself from portraying this character and being on this journey and being in a show which is all about self-discovery, do you think?
Acting is so much, it's like a game of wrestling in my head against like expectations and like self-criticism and stuff like that. So I think that like slows down that process a lot, but still like it's I can relate when people say that this story means a lot to them, because it means a lot to me too, and I've learned a lot about myself through the story. So and that's beautiful, but it's still like it's always a challenge when you're doing it yourself.
When do you think you felt the proudest of yourself?
When people started writing like, this has changed my life, because it gave me the courage to come out, or it gave me the courage to seek new friends, or do this and do that. And people have been like, we've been subject to like education, you know, like my little brother, he sent me a picture the other week, like he's in school, and he just sent me a picture of his like his book from a class, and it was a picture of us. So like we made an impact, and working hard for what, like when you've worked really really hard and you realize like, okay, we made an impact. I felt super proud, and I felt super proud wrapping season 2 as well, of course, but it's been such a momentum for us, and it's been challenging, really really challenging at times, because you start to like reflect on expectations, which is always a bit dangerous. I feel like I always get proud of myself when I'm able to like reflect on earlier experiences and seeing them from different perspectives. I feel like I'm evolving and growing, and I guess that's what most part of life is about, you know.
That's the biggest meaning of life, isn't it? Growing, evolving, and learning more about yourself. And
I guess, I mean, yeah. It's that and love. I mean, you know.
Which is what this show is all about, and that's why people love it so much. And when we did put out, we were doing this episode, the amount of messages I got from people being like, oh my god, I need you to ask this question. It was honestly insane. But one of the ones that I found the funniest, which I feel like we just need to get into real quick, is they wanted you to rank your hairstyles. Do you prefer the long hair, short hair, or the mullet? The deep, meaningful questions we need to get into.
Oh my god!
What's the peak hair moment for you?
Oh, wow, it's actually funny because like I haven't had this many different hairstyles in 1 year since I was like, I don't know, 7. You know, I've always had like the same type of hairstyle. They're so good in different ways, you know. I mean, season 1, Wilhelm's haircut said so much about him. It was so good for Wilhelm season 1, but the shorter hair, with the side part, it was so good for Wilhelm season 2. That wouldn't have worked season 1. And the mullet is just amazing, you know. It's fun.
Yeah. The mullet life chose you.
Yeah, basically, it was so much fun because I did it for a different role. I just wrapped Swedish movie, and I was sitting during my like hair and makeup test, and we started talking about like, what should we do with the hair, and I just threw it out, like, what if he had a mullet? And our makeup department was like, yes, of course. And I was like, I didn't even have time to say anything before they started cutting, so I had no time like backing out of it. But I really like it. It's cool. If I was to rank them, I got it. Okay, I have a rank. So short hair with the side part, that's number 1. Then I think the mullet, and then I think the long hair.
Well, that is a strong choice. I agree. I'm more of a long hair fan myself, but I'm there for it. But before you go off to try yet another hairstyle this year, we always end on this final question, and that always is, in the reign of your life, what is the one rule you'll always live by?
Be the person you needed when you were younger.
Oh my god, I love that.
Yeah, that sentence has been in my head for a few years now. Because I grew up in this industry as a young kid, and I'm still pretty young, you know. And sometimes you get treated pretty badly. And I just feel like if I'm able to make a change for young actors going into this business by being nice to them, I want to do that. So I guess that's the rule I live by. Good question.
I love that.
Wow, that's beautiful.
I know, deep. That's what we love about. That's what we're about on this podcast. Little deep moments, and I love that because that is what this show is all about. And I think it also shows, and what you do on screen is you give a lot of younger people a lot of extra security in who they are. And I think even looking back on this show, watching it now as a queer person, I'm like, I needed this when I was younger. So you are the person you needed.
Oh, that's so sweet.
When I was younger. So thank you.
Oh, that's so beautiful, Josh. Oh,
we are ending on a poetic note.
Yes, we are. Of course we are.